Hey there. Episode 40. Can you believe it? We've been doing this for 40 weeks. We only have 45 episodes and 3 workbooks you can use for a Bible study. You're kind of excited about all this. This week, do not grow weary of doing good. And, that can be just discouraging is, I guess, the word sometimes, if you've just been continuing in something. I want to share a passage with you from Galatians 6, verses 6 through 10. Let him who is taught the word share in all good things with him who teaches. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows is his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows of the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially those who are in the household of faith. Paul begins this passage referring to helping those who minister to you. Not because, I think most people in ministry don't even want to ask for money, and a lot of pastors don't, but, they can't continue. And Paul talks about this in a couple in Corinthians and Philippians. He appreciates those that have given to him, and sometimes he needed things and meeting their needs, not because they won't minister if they don't have their needs met, but, it helps them. And it's not that also that, their ministry won't be blessed because you're not giving, but simply the principle of sowing and reaping. We can manage our resources to help God's kingdom. And then he goes on into the fact that sometimes we need patience in our ministry. Things take time. Sometimes you can pray for someone for 20 years. You see no fruit. You get discouraged. You might even question God, well, that's really a bummer. Shame on us for doing that. God's the one who draws people to himself. He has perfect timing. We can trust him with it. We just need to remain faithful. I can tell you that I have someone that I've been praying for like 12 years or so. And recently something, prayed like every day, like really continually for. And you kind of wonder if anything's going on there. And then recently they talked to me about something and had questions, and it really brought to mind the fact that God's chipping away, God's working, even if we don't see it, because God's the one that draws. And it's not me or something I've done or because I've prayed. And I just continue to do what he wants me to do and remain faithful in that. And I think that there's all sorts of people we have like that in our lives that we've influenced. We don't know. Maybe we've thought about them or we prayed for them on and off for years, and then we kind of forget about it, and then they come to our mind and we go, I used to pray for them. Or, oh, what happened to that person? How are they doing? I used to get together with them and I haven't for a long time. So, we need to be in it for the long haul and just have that patience and persistence and perseverance, I guess. Perseverance is a good word. So Paul goes on and talks about patience in ministry. And the phrase lose heart refers to ancient times, to a woman who's in labor and how it seems like nothing's progressing. Like, I've had 4 children, so I understand that. You feel like nothing's happening, then all of a sudden you have a baby, and so he's told not to lose heart. We need to seek to do good with the resources we have and to do good to all. And it doesn't matter if it takes a long time or a short time. I mean, sometimes things are just speedy and there's a change. You can see it right away, and sometimes not. and we don't understand. Maybe 10 years down the road, we look back and we understand. And so I think we have to just trust God sometimes with things. And we live in this time now that everything's quick and in our hands instantaneously. It's not like ancestors who, picked their wheat, pounded it out, made their flour, made their bread. Like making a loaf of bread was difficult. We go to the store, we buy a loaf of bread. Everything is quick. We expect quick results. We expect that if we're faithful and doing something specific, that there's, we do A, B, and C, A and B, and C is just going to automatically happen. And that's not always true. God has his own time and his own time frame. And when it's time for harvest, and in due season, if we wait patiently, we can see God's wisdom and his goodness and how he responds and he leads. We remain not fearful or lazy, continuing on what he wants us to do on that path by any means possible. And perseverance is a good thing. It pays off. God gives us that strength to continue to help with someone when it takes a long time. And we should pray for grace or mercy. I also think about not being ungrateful to God and too critical, because that just becomes an obstacle. It gets us in the way of serving. And I was just going to tell you that after my dad died and we had no income, he had no will. We had a lot of property, but we couldn't sell it because there wasn't a will. And so it was divided between my mom and my sister and I. And so she got $90 a month Social Security, and so did Lissa and I. But she used that for a time, but then because of the age we were and college and different things we might need for high school and those kind of things, she didn't use ours part of the time. So we essentially lived on about $90 a month. Nowadays, you couldn't do that. We didn't have a mortgage. We had land taxes, which were a real problem once a year. But she would once we started going to church and we became believers and we would go to church, and on Sundays she would hand Lissa and I each a dollar bill for us to put in the offering. And that was a lot for her to do. She probably, before we left for church, had to find where that was coming from and figure out how to do that. And she always had that. We also, every once in a while, I think, being with a widowed mom and 2 teenage girls, we'd get invited to someone's house to dinner every once in a while. And my mom would go buy one of those 64 boxes of Crayola crayons, and she'd get a pad of paper or some just pieces of paper, and she'd get some yarn and she would wrap it up and we would take it to that person's house. It wasn't a 24 box or an 18 box or even a 42 box. It was a 64 box. Of course, it was always a 64 box because she wanted to do as much as she could do for them. And sometimes I think, we get, we don't see progress, we don't know what to do, and we don't know how to help someone, and we just and it just takes something simple. It just is a simple thing. We can go above and beyond. Being generous is more than what you have. It's just a state of the heart, right? It's a state of the heart. And we can grow weary of that. It's hard to give and give and give and not see return. I think if you feel discouraged, then, just pray about it. Go to the Word, see what the Word says. Just keep in tune with that and just tell God that you're upset or discouraged. Read through your Psalms. That helps. That's what I always do. And I've been going through a little bit of this myself. Being an author is not always an easy thing. And, it's is anybody paying attention to this? Is anybody noticing? Why am I doing this? I mean, sometimes you can have doubts. Well, those doubts are not what God wants, especially when he guides and he shows you, oh, I want you to do this. And then being, you're able to do that. And it's like, oh no, he wants me on this path, and doesn't always seem fruitful. And it can be discouraging, but it's neat when people respond and say something and encourage your heart. That is, a great thing. I've known missionaries, some missionaries, it's like they see a lot of fruit right away, and some are in a location for a really long time and they don't necessarily see the fruit, and it's hard. I think we need to pray for them, especially. I can remember also, after college, living in my apartment with a couple of roommates and not having much of an income and not being able to pay my part of the electric bill or something. And I came home from Bible study one night and I reached into the pocket of my purse and there was an envelope and I opened it up. It was the exact amount of money, and I don't think I told anybody. I might have said I prayed for a bill, but I don't know how much it was, like $47.12 or something like that. And it was the exact amount that I needed. And, God provides in amazing ways, and we can be that tool that God can use. If we're thinking about, oh, that's right, that person needs flowers today because they've just had bam, 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 hard things happen. Maybe that would help them. Or that person needs a meal or whatever. I want to look, so we're finishing up our calendar pretty soon. And the last couple of weeks, I was just going to share a couple of things that are on here. 3 ways to show kindness. And so just to keep in your mind, what are 3 things that you can do this week to show kindness? Share your testimony with someone. We've gone over that a couple times. They have a little short testimony you can share with anybody. Listen to a new song. Listen to a song you haven't heard before and just think about the words. And it's a good worship thing. Meet with a family member. Maybe someone, or call them, they live far away, that you haven't talked to in a really long time. It's amazing catching up with someone like that you had no clue certain things were going on in their life and they didn't want to share them. Maybe there's a need that you can help with there. Pray for people who need Christ. We have our little list in our Bible on our Post-it note, and that's a good thing to do. Pray. Don't forget to pray through that list. Offer a service to someone, like babysitting your neighbor's kids, or run an errand for a shut-in, or one of our close friends broke her foot in 3 places hiking and she needs some things, or maybe somebody's spouse needs something because they've been helping, or they're a caregiver of a kid that has special needs or something and they just needed time by themselves. There's all sorts of things like that you could do. And don't grow weary of doing good. Just continue doing good. And pray for opportunity and pray for God to help you when you have that discouragement. But keep praying for the person. I'm sure you've all heard a billion stories of people who've prayed for someone for 35 years and something happened. I've been to baptisms where an adult got baptized rather than a kid, and they share that, oh, my grandma took me to church when I was little and took me to Awana, and some of the Bible verses I memorized kept coming back to me now, and and I ended up being saved because of that. 40 years later or something. You have no idea the influence that you have. And the body of believers, there's a song out about you can't take the church out of me. I was thinking about how with the pandemic and how we were having church, a lot of churches were meeting just via live stream. And they've gone back now, but some of the people haven't all gone back because it's easy to sit at home. I think it's so nice to have that available. If you're sick or coming back from a trip and you're late, you can just watch it later or whatever. That's a wonderful tool. But it's really hard to know if the person across the aisle from you at church has a need that you would normally talk to after church. So for me, I'm glad that I can go meet with people and see people and talk to people. If you're always in your house and you don't ever go out, that person that is searching for a dime in their purse in front of you in the grocery line, you won't be able, if you don't ever go out and you just pick up your groceries, you won't be able to pay for their groceries for them or whatever. Just there's so many simple things, paying for the person behind you in line at, a coffee shop or whatever, There's so many little things like that you can just make someone's day. I know you probably don't think you make someone's day, but you absolutely do. And all it takes is a little piece of kindness, a little thing. So don't get discouraged by doing those things, just saying, well, I do those things all the time and nobody does them for me. Wow. Yeah. God's using you in someone's life, and don't belittle it. You reap what you sow. And if it's negativity, that's not a good thing. And I have to pray about all this myself. So you pray for me and I'll pray for you. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.